So with apprenticeships, kind of one of the main goals when you're looking honestly, talking about apprenticeships, which was the first part of my presentation, the Missouri actually has a set of goals, and you can go to the Department of Higher Ed and see these goals. The main sets when you look at these goals is we have to figure out a way to get more people into the workforce. So earlier when we were talking about, hey, how do we get those adults into healthcare? When they have a retail job that maybe is doing decent on pay, they're doing okay. Why would they want to go back to school? Why do they want to go into debt to get a healthcare job? This is honestly where apprenticeships come into play, is because it gives them a reason to come back. These apprenticeships are paying for them to go to school. What they also want is they want an alignment of the K-12 system to community colleges, to four-year institutions. And that's what apprenticeships are also supposed to start, is to get that alignment. And that's one of the things that you're going to see when I talk about the alliance, is we're following kind of what's being asked of us to do and trying to get all that stuff aligned, taking that public school kid, getting them into the community college, getting them into a four-year institution. But at all points during that path, they are earning along the way. They're earning a degree, they're earning money, they're going to be functioning at a higher level. What are apprenticeships? You'll hear a lot of the earn while you learn. And I like that, but some people have kind of tweaked that earn while you learn towards not an apprenticeship, we're going to give you a stipend. Okay, here's your $1,000 stipend we're going to give you. And it's basically a $1,000 check saying, thank you, and now you owe me 6 months after you're done. To me, a stipend really isn't a earn while you learn situation from what it was traditionally meant to be. A stipend also is taxed. So that student is not earning $1,000. They're not receiving that full $1,000 because it is taxed. Where apprenticeships are different. They're actually paying them an hourly rate. They're paying for their school. But a stipend, in my opinion, really isn't an earn while you learn. It's a scholarship that has a hook. And the hook is you owe me 6 months if you take this scholarship. I've not been a huge fan of the stipends because of that. Because if you wanted to do it as a scholarship, fine, work through our foundation, get a scholarship, but then you don't get the hook on the back end. Apprenticeship, now, if you're going to pay them an hourly rate and pay their schooling, now, hey, I can get it behind the hook. But I'm not a huge fan on the stipends part, but they are there. I'm not bashing them. If our students can get money while they're in school, great. But I like some of the apprenticeship stuff that is better. Key with the apprenticeship is they need to be able to earn a nationally recognized credential. Most of all of our programs, we have that. That's not really a problem for us to hit that criteria. When you look at the apprenticeship growth, so when you're looking at this, I don't know if I got a laser on this one or not. Yeah, there it goes. So you can see the growth from 2012 to 2021. The number of apprenticeships being created is going up. Yes, there was a little dip right here, but something funky happened that year. I'm not really sure. They're still going to do a little bit more research to figure out what that was, but something happened on that 2020 year. You can also see this is the total number of apprenticeships served from 2013 to 2021. My little face is in the way there, but it's around 800 plus, almost 900,000 apprenticeships are being served currently. How are we doing in Missouri with apprentices? We are falling behind as far as California, but California, one, larger population. Two, their governor has actually made a huge push on apprenticeships and is putting a lot of state funding behind apprenticeships. So it's not just federal dollars now, it is state funded dollars. But if you look at Missouri, we're at about 14,000 active apprentices in the state of Missouri. That's a pretty good number when you look at our surrounding states. Arkansas is at 7,000. My home state of Oklahoma, a whopping 1,700 there. Kansas, 1,900. Now we come up here to Illinois, they're going to be up there with us in that 16,000 range. So we're doing pretty good in the state of Missouri with apprentices. New apprentices, we're doing well compared to our surrounding areas. Like I said, California still kind of kills us. but there's more people out in California and they put a whole lot more dollars behind it. Completers, because this is always the key for me. It's not how many can I get in the queue, how many can I actually get done? Okay. How many can we actually get done? We're creating about 3,000 completed apprentices in Missouri compared to our surrounding states, 238, 592, 277, things like that. We're doing a pretty good job, but we can do better with it. Gender. Anybody notice something about this chart? Male. Well, we were talking earlier, what is the predominance of healthcare providers that we are producing? What is the predominance of their gender? Female. So if a whole lot of our people are female, but a whole lot of the apprentices are males, how many medical apprenticeships do you think we have? Not many. So this is now based on race. White is the most common. The things that I notice up here is some of the smaller groups. The African American group is sitting there down here at about 41,000, 42,000. Asian population sitting at about 8,000. American Indian coming in here. We still have some diversification issues within our apprentices. Age. Most of the graph is 35 and under. So when we're looking at, hey, who do we need to be targeting? Who do we need to probably be going after? Well, who are we looking for? Well, we're looking for that person that went to high school, got out of high school, started working as a server somewhere, bounced over to Applebee's. Then it's like, hey, you know what? Olive Garden, they're a whole lot better place. No, they're not. But I'm going to get more tips over there. And then maybe they go over to Metropolitan Grill. Now they've stepped up. Now they're going to make more tip money over there. And they're just kind of bouncing from these types of positions. Or, nope, now I'm going to go over here to J.C. Penney's. And then they start wondering, what am I doing with my life? What is my purpose? Why am I here? It can't be to bring people food every day. And am I really going to do this until I'm 60? Okay. Those are the people that we are needing to look at and target to get into our health sciences programs. The number of high school graduates in the state of Missouri is going down and is going to continue to go down for the foreseeable future. So they cannot be our one and only target audience. I hear that a lot when I go to places. They're like, oh, we got to get the high schools. They're our pipeline. No, they're just the most consistent one. We have to figure out this 35 and under group. How do we get them interested in our health sciences program, our apprenticeships? How do we hook them to come into our professions? So here are the top 30 apprentices: electrician, carpenter, plumber, sprinkler fitter, construction craft laborer, truck driver, sheet metal worker, lineman, structural steel worker, HVAC. When I was sitting there reading this list, I'm like, where are we? Because we're nowhere on this list. I would have thought at some point we would have come in somewhere with one of them. But then I also started looking at the list of, hey, why do I think most of them were males? Because of this list. So where were we? CNA came in at 15. Okay, CNA was 15 with 4,600. Registered nurse resident, not sure exactly 100%. I'm going to need my ASN faculty to tell me exactly what that is, but they came in second in healthcare stuff at number 22, and then 26 was a pharmacy tech. So here's the graph based on industry. Healthcare is this blue right there. So are we doing a tremendous job of developing apprentices for our students? No. Construction and all these people, they seem to have figured it out. We just never have. So why? Slide. See, I have this when I go, I'm always like, okay, I got to think of what they're going to think about, and then I make a slide for it. So yeah, the question is why does that happen? Why are we not doing this as a profession? A lot of it, I think, is this top one. And by the way, I didn't do all this myself. This actually comes from this report. There'll be a QR code at the end of this. You can get my full deal, and that way the links are actually active and you can get all my resources. Okay. But I agree with this particular study in that professional bias is there. Well, I didn't have that. That's not how it worked when I did it. So if I didn't get it, you're not going to get it. You got to do the same thing I did. Remember what we were talking about eating your young type of thing? This is the exact same stuff. Lack of awareness by employers. Hospitals, because they're not really around, weren't even thinking, hey, is this even an option for us? Well, guess what? You heard from Andy and Cox Health. They're like, yeah, it is an option. Let's do it. But a lot of hospitals may not even know that this is a possibility. Lack of funding. Yeah, that's a huge part of it. Where's the money coming from? Accrediting barriers. Absolutely. A lot of the accrediting agencies, when you ask, hey, can we do apprenticeships? They say, no, you can't pay a person to go to clinical. We're not going to let you do that. Why? Because I didn't get that. I wasn't paid to go to school. Everybody else has to go through the same pain and suffering that I did. You guys, I'm taking a little creative license from one actually accrediting agency, but that was pretty much what I was told by one of them. And I'm like, this is sad. Programs are selective admissions create problems. Yeah. Most of all you guys' programs, it's selective admissions. Everybody's taking the general education course and they apply to get in the program and then they're here. So where does the apprenticeship start? Because if you start it during the gen ed and the hospital's paying for the anatomy and the phys and the English, what happens if you don't get accepted? Do you owe them back the money? Because that's what the hospital's going to say. You didn't get in, give me back my money. So that in itself creates some problems. And we've had that as well. Got Josh here, he can attest to that. For me, it's a simple fix. The apprenticeship doesn't start until after you're accepted. Once you're accepted into the program, then the hospital interviews to determine who do they want to bring on as an apprentice. It starts then. It doesn't start on the general education side of it. It starts then, but that's a barrier that makes people go, I don't want to mess with it. I'm not going to do it. The lack of funding. This is a big thing because the employers have to pay it. Hospitals aren't used to that. Construction companies are. Electrical companies are. They're used to that. They've always had shortages. So they're like, hey, I'll pay you to go be an electrician. Just you come back and work for me. Hospitals have always been much more of, you need me. So you go do your thing. And once you're ready, then you come back to me. They're now having to flip their mindset. And you hear it from Andy from Cox Health of how they're having to change their mindset of how they are looking at their workforce. But it's going to mean that they're going to have to put dollars into the game. They're going to have to put up funds to get these types of things. So what have we done here at Cox or here at OTC with Cox? Starting in 2019, we started up a MA apprenticeship program. And I know Andy had said it was like 300 some, and I was just looking over here at Becky and she's like, we've had about 225 MAs run through this program. And this program, Dr. Lee Williams is our allied health program director. Becky Stevens is kind of the brains behind it as far as the creation of the program, created the curriculum, took what a lot of times MA programs are, they're a year long, and condense it down to a 16-week curriculum so that it made it to where it was possible and palatable to Cox to pay for it. And then we also have Arlena, Amy, and Zachary. They're here up in the front. That's why I made sure I named them all, because I know if I didn't name them all, then I was going to get hate mails later. Did I really? I apologize. Okay. I apologize. I misspelled Amy's name, and that's what I get for going in a hurry. But They are here. This program started with 3 cohorts, averaged about 17 students per cohort is what the average was when you look at 225 people going through at 3 cohorts since 2019. They're getting ready to start their 14th cohort. And because they were so successful and because the MAs were so successful, we're going to go from 3 cohorts a year to 6. Every couple months, there's going to be a new onboarding phase of MAs. The cohorts will range anywhere from 10 to 30 students per cohort. What do students have to do? Well, first they have to apply to the Cox Health MA Apprenticeship Program. They put an application in with Cox. Cox receives that application. If they meet certain internal characteristics for to proceed forward, then they come over to us. We set them up with a test. That test is some basic things that we have them run through. Becky was very nice to tell me what all they were. It's basic math, add, subtract, multiply, divide, reading clues, just some general context stuff. To me, it sounds like a really mini version of HESI. Okay, it's a mini version of HESI to see, can you put these basic things together and produce it out? Basic computer skills, can you copy and paste? Some basic things that, hey, an MA might be able to have to be asked to do. If they pass that test, then they make it to the next phase, which is now they're actually in a physical interview with Cox Health. Because they're going to be a Cox Health employee, they need to figure out, do we want you? Make it through the interview, then they can actually be accepted into the program, and they would start that program after the interview, up to 30 applicants per cohort. Those selected applicants apply to OTC. They apply to OTC, they put in that they want to go into the MA program. They are not billed at all. The invoice for everything goes straight to Cox. Student doesn't pay anything. Invoice goes straight to Cox. Cox pays the invoice, and then we get our money for it. We buy them their books, their scrubs, all that type of stuff. They are paid an hourly rate while they're in the MA apprenticeship program. So if I remember right, it's like $15 an hour, 15 and a quarter. So they're paid 15 and a quarter an hour while they're in the program for 40 hours a week for 16 weeks. Wow. Remember we were talking about removing barriers. Yeah. They're a full-time employee of Cox Health. So that means they have the regular full-time benefits that are with it. They're getting paid their hourly rate. They're getting benefits. They get the MA program paid for. Man, outside of childcare, they pretty much covered most of the bases of things that somebody would say, hey, I can't do that. The 16-week program, they spend about the week prior doing an orientation with Cox. Then the actual program itself is 16 weeks, bouncing between clinical activities and didactic and lab activities here on OTC's campus. We cover the didactic and the lab. Then Cox takes care of the clinical applications, putting them to their different sites. And from all the things that I am told, the physicians fight over the MA apprentices going, I need more, I want more, give me this one, I want this one. They're fighting over them, which means they're also fighting over them for jobs on the back end. During the program, the MA faculty and Cox Health actually have regular meetings once a week just to touch base of how are things going? What are you guys seeing? What are we seeing? How can we help these students a little bit more? Because while barriers are being removed, there are still things that come up. Cars broken down, mental health issues, all those types of things, which since they're an OTC student and a Cox Health employee, they actually have 2 different sets of resources to help them out. Because you have 2 entities that are treating them correctly as a quality student and as a quality employee. Program academic attrition rate is approximately about 2%. I think, what'd you tell me, 6, Becky? 6 students, 13-ish cohorts, 6 students attritioned out. That's not too bad. 225 through 13 cohorts and 6 attritionable loss. That is a very effective program at getting people into the workforce. Certification pass rate is 99%, which is 16% higher than the national average. So Was Becky and her team able to take a 1-year common program, condense it down to 16 weeks, and still make it effective and meeting high standards? Absolutely, because that's one thing that we can't do when we're looking at a lot of this stuff is to lower any standards. A shortened program is not a lowered standard program. It just means a shorter period of time. That is it. Retention rate, this is the part that Andy loves. Their retention rate is about 82%. So if you go through that MA apprenticeship, you owe them 2.5 years afterwards, working there as a MA for Cox Health, but they have an 82% retention rate afterwards. Why? Because that person feels like you invested in me, I'm going to invest in you. They want to stay there because the company invested in them and saw worth. I love going to their little graduation stuff and hearing the videos of all these students honestly talking about, I didn't realize I could do it. I didn't think I could. I am so surprised in myself. And honestly, you guys, as somebody that's standing up here, I mean, I've got 5 degrees, multiple credentials. I mean, I got a whole laundry list of things I can put behind my name. And I'm sitting there looking at a 16-week program going, really? They're crying over completing a 16-week program. Try one of my doctoral things. But then I'm remembering this is a life-changing thing for many of these people. This is something that is moving them from a place of despair, humility. I'm not good enough, to now a point of I'm a part of the healthcare community and I'm worth something. That to me has been one of the biggest things that I have had the privilege of being a part of this program on the back end to enjoy, is watching those students have that moment of pride in themselves. And this is what this type of program can do. Now, can we go on from that? Absolutely. We have an MA to LPN bridge program. So we took the LPN program. We took out some of the clinical requirements because, hey, you've already got a lot of clinical experience in doing these things. So we're going to reduce your number of clinical hours. And now we're going to make you an LPN. Then we have an LPN to ASN bridge. So now you can become a registered nurse. And all of these steps, they, in my opinion, are truly earning while they're learning. Because they work as an MA, then they work as a practical nurse, and they can go on and work as a registered nurse, all while doing the program. And if the employer has educational funding for them, guess what? It's getting paid for all along the way. I'll talk about some of that stuff later as well. But each one of these students can chunk their way through, because remember, a lot of these students going, I'm not good enough to do a 16-week program. If they look at an ASN program that's 2.5, 3 years in their mind, I got no hope. But they take the little step through the MA. They take the next step to the practical nurse, and then that next step to the registered nurse, and they're feeling confidence along the way. That's what these types of programs are there for, and those types of students. You tie in partnerships with, say, Missouri State for their BSN, their MSN, their doctor and nurse practitioner. That's pretty impressive at what can be done. Are there others out there? I didn't realize WashU has a apprenticeship program for MAs. WashU saw the value in this. Now, why do you think they saw the value? Do you think it was WashU? Is there a big healthcare institution up in the St. Louis area? BJC? Do you think they might have some connection over to WashU, and they leaned over to WashU and said, hey, we need you to do a thing? So they did a thing. There's central sterile processing, community health worker, dental assistant, EMT, medical coder, medical lab tech, CNA, LPN. These are all ones just in the state of Missouri that are listed as apprenticeships in the state of Missouri. So can we do it as a healthcare community to offer up some of these things? Absolutely. If you want, there's actually a link down here. Once again, I'll give you my presentation. You can click on it. It's all the approved things that we can do apprenticeships for. Because once again, a lot of people are like, well, you can't do it for respiratory. You can't do it for an ASN. Actually, you can. It's just, do you want to? And a lot of times we are the educational partner. The employer is the one that's having to foot the bill. So it's us trying to convince them that this is an important thing to do. And why is it important? Well, we all sit there and say, follow the mighty dollar, right? If you want to know if something going to work or not, do the dollars make sense? So this was a program that was up in New Hampshire. The apprenticeship program for the MA cost $59,700 per MA. It was offset by $48,000 per apprentice reduction in overtime cost. So remember what Andy, and trust me, we did not talk before this. When he said he wanted the program, why? It's because it's going to make his offices more efficient and he wasn't going to have to use as much overtime. There was a $48,000 savings in 1 year just in overtime. Another $7,000 per apprentice with increased revenue from medical appointment bookings. So that office was able to be more efficient and was able to do more medical bookings, which they're able to bill for, which makes them more money, which means if you add those things up, it almost pays for itself in the first year. That's a really good ROI. Most business school stuff will tell you, hey, if you've got a 5 to 10 year ROI, that's a great business plan. Man, this is 1 year. 1 year. And then what you also see is the program nearly paid for itself within the first year and had an internal rate of return of at least 40%. Do you think those MBA, VP level type peoples at the hospitals would be interested in those types of numbers? Absolutely. This is how we approach our medical partners with, we need to do this and this is why. Yes, that initial outflow of money is scary, but think about what it's going to do to the office production on the back end. And here's an actual study that proved it. Other reasons, Andy talked about it too, train them when they work. If you train them there, you do your clinical there, they have a good experience there, guess what? They're going to work there. And they're going to be the happy little employees coming to work, which is what every HR person wants. There's also tax credits. So IRA, it's IARA is the name of it. And it is up there as a link because I've actually got the link hidden in there. It's more for smaller business, but there's actually a $9,000 tax credit for small businesses to be able to do apprentices. They can do a $9,000 write-off, gone. Now, is that going to mean a lot to a $3 billion Cox Health entity? $9,000 write-off, they're going to score. No. But to the smaller ones, apprenticeships may also reduce the higher cost by providing streamlined channel of care. All this stuff came out of this down here. Reduce attrition in the building loyalty. This is one of the things that I have noticed. I date back 20 plus years over at Mercy. Mercy, they used to have an annual party down in Branson every single year. They would rent out Celebration City, which isn't even there anymore, but they would rent out Celebration City, and it was bring yourself, bring 3 or 4 others and your family, come down, have a great time. Every year they had that. What were they building? Brand loyalty. Then corporations started stepping back. They go, hey, we're not going to have the big party anymore, but hey, we're going to give you a turkey at Thanksgiving or a ham for Christmas, right? And then it gets stepped back from that of, okay, you get up to $20 to pick a thing out of this little book, and then we'll mail it to you. And then it was like, hey, we'll give you 50% off at the cafeteria on this day. You guys are all laughing because you know I'm right. So the hospitals themselves have pulled back on the brand loyalty, and then they wonder why people aren't loyal. I always try to tell them this is not a generational thing of unloyal people. The entities have pulled back on what they are providing. There's no more pension plan. They cut off the pension a couple years into me working at Mercy. Very few places have pension plans anymore. We do. Right? That's why we all went into education. They pulled back pension plan. They pulled back how much they're providing for education. They're now realizing the errors of their ways and they're starting to turn that around. There's actually an employer provided education system, which for this one, when you look at this employer provided educational assistance, they can provide up to $5,250 per year to you as an employee, tax free to you. So you remember that $1,000 stipend that's taxed? If it comes from the hospital to the school to pay for the thing, up to $5,250 is tax free to you as the one using that money. That's a whole lot better than you give me $1,000 stipend and the government's going to take $300 at least of it. And by the way, this is coming from the IRS website, so I'm not making this up. Okay. Educational assistance benefits. The only thing it can't pay for is things like meal, lodgings, transportation, tools, things like that, but it can pay for school. So guess what we're setting up with Cox Health? You have somebody that needs an anatomy class, an English class, or whatever class, send them our way and we'll bill you. And they're like, okay. And they send us a list. Here's who's approved for it. Do you think they're trying to also then grow that into some of our health sciences programs as well? You look, many of our programs start in August and end in May. So let's see, that's 5,250, 5,250. That's 10.5 right there. Would 10.5 cover your program in that last year? Probably in most of our cases, yes, it would. So they just paid for that person to go to school and they're not taxed on those dollars whatsoever. And then what the hospitals get is, hey, every time you take that money, we get a year. Okay, I'll give you 2 years because I was going to work there anyways. And you're going to pay for me to go to school. Not a bad gig. What do you need? You need a champion on the employer side. There has to be somebody on that employer side that says, yes, we're doing this. This makes sense. We're going to have it happen. And that's honestly what Andy Hedgepath is at Cox Health. He's the champion of that, of going, yes, this makes sense. You have to have that level of person to do it. And it can't be a staff level person. You got to be going up VP, CEO type level situation, but it has to be that. It needs to also be an in the demand job, which almost everything we have is. Short-term training based on the evidence is ideal, something 1 to 2 years. Because they're having to pay this person, if it's a true apprentice, they're paying them a weekly wage. They don't want to keep doing that for too long. So a 1 to 2 year max type program is what they're looking for. And then you need to have proper curriculum development because you can't have it be to where they're coming out not knowing what they're doing, because then now the end product is bad. The hospitals aren't going to be happy and they're not going to want to pay for that, or the students aren't going to be able to pass their boards, which we don't want that either. So proper curriculum development is needed as well. So that is apprenticeships that we have done here. Any questions on apprenticeships? Yes. Great.
Because several years ago, when we started popular, I went to several meetings about this, and the red tape that it took to get an established apprenticeship was like overwhelming. Is that still the case?
So I was not a part of the MA side of the house when we did all that red tape. We are the sponsoring institution of that MA apprentice, which means we own the apprenticeship, which means we can go then partner with Mercy, CMH, and any other entity, and we own it. Or you could be the educational partner and allow the hospital to be the one to do all the red tape. And then you partner with them as the educational institution, which is what I would recommend, probably because they have grant writers and stuff on staff that are more adept at doing it. I would be going to them and say, you own the apprentice, we'll be your educational partner. is how I would recommend doing it, because yes, I've heard the exact same thing, that it is very difficult. So much so that I know here at OTC, they have said that we don't want to act as a sponsoring institution anymore. We will. And that's
For a 1 to 2 year.
yeah.
Don't have to justify all of the red tape when those are the kind of offers they get.
And what I would honestly ask those entities to potentially do is to look at that 5250, say, hey, we'll bill you for this. So at least they're not being taxed on that. Because at that 20,000, they're being taxed at a 33 to probably 40% tax rate. Yeah, I would be talking to them about, hey, can we maybe do this route to where we'll bill you every year for up to 5250? That way the student isn't taxed for it. And then you can just do on the back end the other remaining 10 grand. Yep.
To apply for financial aid before it's not free.
No, so with the apprenticeships, they're not paying for the financial aid aspect. Now realizing that there's different rules for a Department of Labor recognized apprenticeship or a non-Department of Labor one. So you could build it to where, hey, if you've already got Pell Grant funding and things like that, that it's going to pay for it, fast track, something like that. You take that, we will pay you an hourly rate, and you almost do like a combined version of a apprenticeship. Correct. And those, for the entity, for the employer, they don't get any of the other tax benefits and any other federal money to offset their expenses for one like that. But those are very much possible as well, to where if they don't care about that, or they don't want to go through the red tape, a combination like that to me makes very good sense too. The key is, what barriers can we remove and how do we get there? How you put the pieces together, I really think are between the educational partner and the facility. Mhm.
And that's really good retention, but what's next?
Oh, my little picture is covering it up. Yeah.
Or what their research, we're doing something else in building and skills. And so they're needing about 120 a year to return. So we're not really oversaturating the market.
Right. Yeah, their turnover rate, because they do such a good job of upscaling their individuals and raising their education, that's where a lot of their loss comes into play. Oh, thank you. No, we'll go forward. Yes.
Do medical assisting outside of office.
Yes. Yeah, so we still have our own internal MA. This is on the side, so to speak. Yeah, so what they need from an MA perspective. So here's MA. Hiring target is they need to be hiring 244. Pipeline need is about 120 that they need just on that regular, just turnover basis. All right. So other collaborative models that are beyond this, and kind of I'll quickly go through because I know I'm running out of time. Vision for the future. For those Marvel fans, you'll get the whole little picture that I just put up here. For you non-Marvel fans, too bad. But vision for the future of healthcare education. We've all talked about the national trends. We know what they are. We've been talking about them here already. And we've also been talking about what students are looking for: online, hybrid. How can I go to school, still have a life? How can I kind of meet in the middle to, they're not really wanting to just be 100% education. They still want to go out with their friends. They still want to have a life where they might have had a kid early and, hey, I can't go all the time. How can you be flexible? So this was the pipeline needs. This is of Cox Health. He's shared it a few different times, so I figure I can share it openly as well. They have huge, massive needs. So when you look at the PN, we talked about it. Extended hours RN, 468. That's just of Cox Health. So this isn't even Mercy, who is actually a bigger entity than Cox. Respiratory therapist, they need to be down here. They need to be hiring about 50 of them a year to be meeting their needs. Our respiratory therapy program produces 24 through the associate program, and now we're able to produce 30 on the baccalaureate side. So that means that if I'm completely filled, I'm meeting one hospital's needs. That's a scary number. So when you look at our area of the state, Cox College, College of the Ozarks, OTC, Missouri State, they're the main producers of medical widgets in our area. As you heard earlier, Andy needs us to double. Mercy needs us to double. So what we had to do is we had to take a serious look at everybody and go, what do we do well? What OTC does well is we do education very well in a short period of time at a highly affordable rate. That is our strength. What our weakness is space. I don't have the space to expand programs that I've got more apps than spots. I don't have the clinical slots to put them in. I don't have the ability to do more. So I can't meet this demand. You can yell at me all you want, but I don't have a way to meet it. Missouri State was in a similar situation. Cox was sitting there going, hey, you know what? We have this whole 1950s hospitals over here at Cox North that we got all this empty space. We got a couple 100,000 square feet worth of space. We have a whole bunch of space, but we have a college that costs a whole lot of money. $400 some a credit hour for Cox College. So what their strength was space, but what the weakness was affordability. So we all started looking at each other going, you know what? If we just partner up our strengths, we can make this happen. And we did. As you heard from Dr. Higdon, Cox College is retiring, closing, whatever verbiage you want to use. They are retiring, and we at OTC will be taking all of their imaging and their ASN programs. Missouri State will take all of their BSN, MSN, OT, and nurse practitioner programs will go over to Missouri State. Because what we started looking at is if we don't innovate, if we don't change, we're going to go away. Healthcare systems are going to crash, and this isn't going to be good for anybody. So these groups got together, SPS, Springfield Public Schools, because are they a pipeline? Absolutely. Remember what we were talking about, that complete vertical integration. So now you're talking about a kindergartner through high school kid, SPS, is going to be aligned with OTC and Missouri State. So K through doctorate is now in alignment. And is now partnering together to say, we can do this better. And we're going to do this more efficient. And we're going to stop fighting with each other, because we all do that, right? We all think the pie is only so big, and we're all trying to fight for our bigger piece of the pie. And what we're saying is, hey, if we can do this better and make it more efficient, make producing healthcare providers easier, we're going to get a bigger piece of the pie. We're going to get more people interested in healthcare. So the pie got bigger. So let's stop fighting over the small pieces of pie, figure out how can we make the pie bigger. The vision for it was a bold partnership that improves the health and prosperity of our region by significantly increasing the number of healthcare professions in the Midwest. That was the vision statement created by the Alliance Group. Longer ambition for 5 years. I'll shorten it up. Basically, we fixed the problem. We stop fighting with each other. We start working together, and we fix the problem. Because I can tell you right now, from my side of the house on the health sciences, when they were trying to go to get slots over at Cox South, they were fighting trying to get slots, and we're not getting enough slots. Well, we can't put more people because we don't have enough slots. And it's because Cox South was trying to feed who? Cox College. And it's like always kind of first dibs, and then we're kind of picking up the scraps. And it's just, we were fighting against each other. Missouri State was fighting it too. How can we make this better? How can we stop? Because we started realizing that back in the day of having all these students running around and everybody's got, no, we were hurting each other. Now we're getting out of each other's way. Will this be easy? Good God, no. I wake up in panics many nights. But this will be years in the making. There's going to be a governance structure. There's going to be a board of directors of the alliance as well, to where it'll actually be the entities sitting down on a regular basis. Where are our problems? How do we make this better? What can we do better here? There's actually a legal contract binding this all together too. Meaning that Missouri State can't open up a program without first going to the alliance and going, hey, is everybody good? I can't open up a program without going, hey, everybody good? But we also have built into that agreement, if it's at this certain level of education, it automatically goes to OTC. If it's at this level of education, it automatically goes to Missouri State. But we're bound together to where we're not going to be competing with each other. There's actually literally non-competes in it. So what are we wanting? We want to turn Cox North into a big, massive healthcare education institution. If we want to make this a beacon, this will be an 80 to 90 plus $1 million project to renovate a 1950s scary building. Because it can't be that. That was my biggest thing when we were doing this. If we're going to do this, it can't be looking like Cox North. They came and toured the PMC. They came and toured Lincoln Hall. We went to Missouri State and toured. And honestly, they were all like, oh, this is what you mean by open spaces for better education. And oh, I'm like, yes. And that's what we need to make Cox North. And 80 to $90 million is what they've kind of come out with. Is that's what it's going to take. But Cox College will be retiring, won't be granting degrees anymore. It will now be through Missouri State, and OTC will be the grantors of all the degrees. We get all of those. Missouri State gets all of those. My list is bigger because I was the one that made the list. What we also have is, so that you guys know, SPS through Middle College will be sending students here. They'll have 3 tracks: a CNA track, an EMT track, or a general health sciences track. Those tracks will then prep them to what I am calling their 13th year to be with me, or their 13th year and 14th year to be over at Missouri State doing, say, their BSN program. Shortening that process to get into the workplace, making it into a more affordable pathway, because that student, they come to me, they can use their A+ completely out, debt-free through that program. 1 year out of high school, let's say 1.5 years out, they are 19, 20 years old, making $60-some thousand as a nurse out on the floor, or as a respiratory therapist, or whatever they so chose at 19, 20 years of age. Questions about the alliance? This is something I'll tell you is about a year in the making. So some of you guys are like, I'm going to go back home and make this happen. It took a year and a lot of really tough conversations around the table to where we're all looking at each other going, you don't do this well. You need to get out of the way. Let us do that. So a lot of hurt feelings, but we had to get through that to get to the point of this is how we make it better. Yeah, it was a year. I was like that close from an NDA. Non-disclosure agreement. For those that don't know what NDA is. Questions on it? Because I think I'm out of time. I'm 1 minute over. So the question was basically, will there be additional partners coming in? We hope so. That is our plan. They won't be a part of the founding members. The founding members are Cox Health, SPS, Springfield Public Schools, Missouri State, and OTC. Will we bring other partners in? I really do hope so. Because I don't want it just to be only SPS. I want it to be surrounding areas as well. But for right now, it is those 4 entities that are kind of running the show. I've even asked for like SPS. I'm like, hey, if at all possible, can we make sure that kids from Central and Hillcrest and Parkview, which for those of you guys that aren't around here, are more diverse, lower socioeconomic group, that they get equal opportunity into this program as well. Because we were getting most of the Glendale Kickapoo kids anyways. Yes. Certified, correct? Clinical medical assistant. That's why I have them here. Question back. Yeah. See, that's the other beautiful part about this partnership is I'm not recruiting for them. Cox Health is actually the ones that are recruiting for it. Now, our navigators are aware, and I've been telling our navigators that, hey, we have this program. So if you have that student that comes in that's looking for that quick turn, get into a career quickly, here's an opportunity. So we assist with that, but the bulk of the recruitment is actually done on Cox side of the house. And sometimes it goes really good and they got 100 apps. Sometimes they get 10. They have to give me at least 10. Yes, so dual credit, yes, in that middle college grouping, when they come here on campus, they're going to be getting anatomy, phys, comm, English, math 128, those courses so that they are prepared for our health sciences programs, which then also count as credits on the high school end so that they meet their graduation requirements for high school. Do they have to be in the middle college? Middle college means that they're here. If they're on their home school, they can sit there and get dual credit from Nixa and wherever. They don't have to be a part of this program. The middle college thing is just where they come here for the entire day. So instead of going to their high school, they actually come here to OTC, which a lot of them like because they're taking classes with college students and they're going over and they're going to the cafeteria and they're going to the little, what's going to be the new student success building that's going to be over there. They get that college feel their junior and senior year. Yep. Yeah, all those MA apprentice walk-in graduation, and we will have it flipped to a college credit-based certification. SPS PACE. So if they're in my middle college, it's not mine, but if they're in the middle college, I don't want another program, don't get me. If they're in the middle college, the sending school is the one that's actually footing the bill, and they're charged a set amount for that student for the year. If it is a dual credit from their individual high school that's maybe dual credited with us, then that's normally the parent that's paying for it. But I will say that Ozark has a system to where they can actually go over to our Richwood Valley campus and they will pay up to 8 classes. Ozark will actually pay for up to 8 classes of dual credit courses over at the Richwood Valley campus. So Ozark actually foots the bill.